Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
6:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you. Donald Trump was on with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday morning. Do you know what's interesting? Joan, you had a story regarding the bombing of the Iranian nuclear sites.
Yeah.
And somebody there within Iran is now saying that the bombing was not as effective as Donald Trump said.
Well, it's the IAEA.
Oh, it's the International Atomic Energy people.
Yeah.
Because there's a dude there's a higher up in Iran that is actually saying that the damage was significant and that it is going to put them back years. It's like, I don't understand how so many different people can have so many different opinions on one thing. There's a story last night on Fox News and they said that they're looking down from the satellites at all the rubble and everything and all the work that they're doing. And they're showing that the damage was significant and that the delay on their program is going to last at least a year or two. So I don't understand why so many people have so many differing opinions. The guy in Iran is one of the, I don't know what you call him. He's under the supreme leader, but he's a higher up politically. And he basically beast-slapped the supreme leader. Basically said, ignore him because we do have significant damage. So isn't it interesting how like everybody's got a different opinion on this? I mean, the United Nations came out and they said the damage was just as Donald Trump said. Now, I don't know if anybody's utilizing the actual term obliterated other than Donald Trump, but I mean, they are saying that there is significant damage and the program is going to be delayed for, I mean, at least a couple of years. But there's no doubt that things are going Donald Trump's way. He was on with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday morning. But I want to go through some of the things that Donald Trump has won on over the last several days. I mean, the last 7 days, I mean, you've got the bombing against Iran's nuclear facilities, regardless as to how long their program was delayed. That's a success. The economy, stock market, still doing well. So far, the tariffs are not having the negative impact that some have said that they would. Now, that's obviously a wait and see, and some of this stuff is a wait and see. But he got the deal done with China. He got the deal done with UK on the tariffs. And yes, the Supreme Court rulings that came down on Friday, mostly positive. Military recruitment is up. It looks like the spending bill is probably going to pass. And the last week or so has been amazing. And Donald Trump says, listen, we've had a great 7 days. And Maria Bartiromo was asking him about that and a lot of other things, too.
Have you been able to digest what has occurred in the last 7 days?
Not really. It was pretty wild period of time. And I really think in 6 months, we've taken the country and turned it around. I was told by the King of Saudi Arabia, by the leader of Qatar and the leader of UAE, when we went over there, we brought back $5.1 trillion investment into the United States. They said, you're presiding now over the hottest country in the world.
Yeah. And I think that the president is right there. And it is hard to believe, but I didn't realize it until the day of. Maybe it was the next day. But it's been a year since that fateful day when Joe Biden and Donald Trump debated, which was the end for Joe Biden. Were you there at that remote, Joan, when were you at the debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden?
Oh, I was watching it. Yeah.
Were you at the actual remote that we had?
I was at the remote. I think I left before that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I will never forget the things that you remember, right? I'll never forget being there with, the WTN faithful, and it was a packed crowd. And the second Joe Biden opened his mouth, everybody started cheering. It was like, oh, he's having a bad day. Yay. And I mean, it was a very big deal. And Joe Biden did have an incredibly bad night. But in that time, Trump did really well with the campaign, and now he's doing really well the first 6 months. But as far as Iran goes, you know how people talk about how Trump is playing 3D chess while everybody else is playing checkers? So Maria Bartiromo asked President Trump about his trip to the Middle East. And looking back, it actually seems like he was setting the table for an attack, because every nation that he went to in the Middle East, he spoke about Iran. He spoke about how there's no way that they could have a nuclear weapon. He spoke about how he wanted them to come back to the negotiating table. And I think that was Trump setting the table for what he did last weekend.
Did you have an idea that you would have to do something with regard to Iran? Because you teased it a little. You said, look, they've got to come to the table and talk. Something's going to happen.
Well, it was getting a little bit hot, and we knew they had a lot of sites, probably 3 plus the 1. But they had 3 main sites, and we knew they were going to have to either give them up. And I thought we could do it during negotiation, and we just about had it done. And then they said, we want enrichment. Enrichment doesn't mean like air conditioning, and it doesn't mean to jack up your car. Enrichment is a bad word. And I said, you got so much oil, what do you need that for? And they said, well, we need it. And I wouldn't let that happen. I think people wouldn't have understood it if I allowed that to happen. So we had a 60-day talk, and that delayed them a lot. And then we said, let's go at it.
Yep. And that's exactly what they did. Have you noticed how many Middle Eastern countries came to the rescue of Iran?
Would that be 0?
That'd be 0, Joan.
Yeah.
Well done. I will not fart in your general direction.
I fart in your general direction.
By the way, headline on Sunday. Oh, this is what we're talking about. Iranian minister admits airstrikes caused excessive and serious damage to its nuke facilities hours after the Ayatollah accused Trump of exaggerating damage. So everybody has differing stories on this. By the way, this guy also shut down speculation that Tehran would return to negotiations with the United States over its nuclear program. Apparently Iran is like, they're not going to negotiate. They're not going to do anything. They are just done. He says, I would like to state clearly that no agreement, arrangement, or conversation has been made to start new negotiations. Abbas Araghchi said on state television, no plan has been seen yet to start negotiations. So I don't know if Iran wants to negotiate with us. I don't know where they're at right now. And frankly, I don't care. But if they're going to start spouting off that, hey, President Trump, you didn't really hit us as hard as you think that we did, that you did, well, then they need to go back and they need to hit him even harder. I mean, why not? Now, nobody seems to know where the missing enriched uranium is. Donald Trump doesn't know where it is, and Iran probably knows where it is if it's been buried. Israel doesn't seem to know where it is, and that's what everybody's wondering now. Where is that enriched uranium? Did they bury it in the desert? Donald Trump was asked about that, and I've got that audio for you straight ahead. It is 6:15, time to check the roads on WTN. So at 6:15, as far as your weather for today, high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Joan, do we have a feels like temperature?
Actually, we don't. No, let me see.
If it's going to be 90 degrees, then the feels like, I bet you the feels like is going to be about 97 degrees. I think that's what it's going to feel like.
The heat index, as it's called, is not available on this computer. Sorry.
It just says on my end, very high 8.
Very high 8.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Which makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, none.
I'm assuming like add I think 8 degrees.
It's going to be hot.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot. So,
but it's going to rain as well because we can't have it normal here.
Mm-hmm.
Is it normal that it rains like this, like every single day?
No.
Okay.
No. I like it because my flowers are getting watered. I don't have to do it.
You don't have to do anything. That's right.
All right, moving on. So where is that enriched uranium? Trump says that the enriched uranium was not moved.
Do you think that the Iran regime hid some of the enriched uranium before the strikes?
No, you mean did they take it out of
Yeah.
the deep one? No.
Because you were pretty clear you can't have a weapon. You're going to have to come to the talk. Something's going to happen.
I don't think they did. No, I think, first of all, it's very hard to do. It's very dangerous to do. It's very heavy, very, very heavy. It's a very hard thing to do. Plus, we didn't give them much notice because they didn't know we were coming until just, then. And nobody thought we'd go after that site because everybody said that site is impenetrable. You can't, you're not going to be able. This way they did. It's at the bottom of a mountain.
Yeah. I mean, nobody seems to know where it is, but this is going to take some time. It is going to take some time. Trump says they didn't move it. It's heavy and all that. One thing I will disagree with Donald Trump on, for you people that say that, oh, you always agree with Trump. I really don't. So one thing that I'll disagree with Donald Trump on is, he says that they bombed Iran quickly. Well, I guess that's true, but here's the thing, is that we all sensed that it was coming. I mean, I understand that he jumped in, really quick. He said within 2 weeks, and then it was like within 2 days, right? So we understand that, but it's not like we didn't have the, have the drums of war, beating as every single day passed. It was like everybody was talking about whether or not Donald Trump would be bombing Iran. And so they had time to move them. And here's the other thing that I would say is that if they were able to build these nuclear facilities inside of these, big walls of rock, you know what I mean? Well, then they can move that uranium. That's just my opinion. Now, whatever, but we'll have to see if they ever find it. But you know what else is going on in Iran? Mass executions. They're looking for spies that may have helped Israel in this whole thing. The New York Times reported this, that Iranian authorities have asked citizens to alert them to anyone wearing sunglasses or a hat. Because apparently if you wear sunglasses and a hat, you are going to be swiped off the street and taken to, wherever they do the executions, and they're going to take you out. Because what they're doing is they are arresting people for spying, but then these people don't really get a trial. They just pop them. It's what they do. As a matter of fact, human rights people are out there saying that they need to, ease up on the executions because they are violating human rights. But what's so funny? Iran has never, it's not like they've cared about this before, right? So they're looking for people with sunglasses or a hat, trucks with covered beds, and vans driving late at night in the regime's latest crackdown against suspected Israeli spies. The Islamic Republic has grown increasingly paranoid, they say, about the presence of spies within its border after the end of the Israeli-Iran war. They say we had a massive security and intelligence breach. There is no denying this. And their investigation, of course, does continue. But, it's really interesting? They're talking about what we talked about last week, Joan, and that is a possible expansion of the Abraham Accords. We'll talk about that straight ahead. And it is 6:21. Joan Jones has the news coming up at 6:30. Joan, what you got?
Yeah, we've got more on the big, beautiful bill and what's happening today. And also in Louisiana, they've captured another one of those inmates that escaped behind a toilet. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Those guys are still on the run, if you can believe it. But they've captured another one. We've got details on it coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6:37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Zohran Mamdani and his Meet the Press interview. Can I be honest? I don't know which was more annoying, Kirsten Welker or Mamdani, because they're both annoying as all get out. But it was a big interview, 15, 20 minutes or so. And if you don't know who Zohran Mamdani is, well, he is, I think it's pretty obvious to anybody who's following this story, he may very well be the next mayor of New York City. And so Kirsten Welker, she did ask him a lot of questions, and this was on Sunday, I believe. One thing she mentioned is that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries refused to endorse him. And so she asked the question, well, what does that tell you about their attitude towards you?
Do you think the Democratic establishment is afraid of you?
I think that people are catching up to this election. This is an election that went against so much of the analysis that had been told about our party and where we needed to head to. And ultimately, what we're showing is that by putting working people first, by returning to the roots of the Democratic Party, we actually have a path out of this moment where we're facing authoritarianism in Washington, D.C.
So I keep having to ask this question. Where is this supposed authoritarianism with Donald Trump? Because that's obviously who he's talking about, is Donald Trump. And it's a very, what's the best way to put this? It's a very familiar accusation or refrain from the Democrat Party talking about Donald Trump and authoritarianism. You know, the thing I'll consistently say is that, you know, if Donald Trump is an, I guess, authoritarian, he's got a lot to learn, because he's having legislation go to the Supreme Court, where, by the way, he is winning, and he's allowing all of these protests all over the place. He's got a lot to learn about being an authoritarian. So here's the point. The point is that this guy, as much as you have a lot of people saying that Zohran Mamdani is somebody who is, what's the best way to put this? He's a Democrat. Obviously, he's a Democrat, and he's some new, fresh face for the Democrat Party. But he's really not, because he's spouting the same crap. He's spouting the same crap. Also, think about this. The reason why Dem leaders in the House of Representatives and the Senate refused to endorse him, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, the reason they refused to endorse him, do you know why that is? It's because he represents Democrat failure in two different ways. The failed leadership in the city of New York has led to the moment where things are so bad in New York that a Democrat socialist wins. And this guy now represents the Democratic Party. And it seems to me like Mamdani is going to be poster boy for the Democrat Party. I mean, Trump is already talking about it. Everybody's already talking about it. And you know what? I would say to the Democrats, guilty as charged. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, not thrilled. Not thrilled at all.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting middle class taxes. Even on the wealthy. I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign, and ultimately we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional, is something that has broad support and will continue to increase that support over the next few months and years.
So you think you're going to be able to twist Governor Hochul's arm and get her to support raising taxes? I mean, what about the fact that she says she's concerned New Yorkers might leave? They might go to Florida.
I think it's time for a leadership that doesn't twist arms, but rather builds partnership. And I'm looking forward to having that with the governor.
Do you know what it did? This dude just farts platitudes. Zohran Mamdani. It's like, well, I'm looking to build coalitions. I'm looking to have meetings. I'm looking forward to those partnerships. I'm looking forward to having those discussions. But not once do I hear any real solution that is not going to further destroy the city of New York. I mean, dude wants rent controls, $65 million for transgender care, fast and free buses. He wants to raise the minimum wage. And he talks about how excited people are. Well, here's the deal, friends. If you're promising people a whole bunch of free stuff, they're going to get excited. If you're telling people that we're going to defund the police, you know what? I hate to say this, but in New York, people get excited. Listen to what they wrote. They just start talking about the Washington Post. The Washington Post wrote a big, long article on Zoran Mamdani. And this is what they wrote. Listen close.
They say a massive minimum wage would depress low-skilled employment. His rent freeze would reduce the housing supply and decrease its quality. Cutting bus fares would leave a transit funding hole that, unless somehow filled, would erode service. Meanwhile, the grocery business operates on thin margins, and his plan for city-run stores would probably lead to fewer options, poor service, and shortages. Mr. Mamdani, are your proposals going to hurt the very people you're trying to help?
Not at all. There have been many in editorial board who have had concerns, and what we've shown is that more than 400,000 New Yorkers are excited about this vision.
So again, because you're offering them free stuff, but what's the big cost? I mean, I went through all of this on Thursday or Friday, I think it was. But everything that he wants to do, right? You've got rent controls. This leads to a shortage of supply. People never move, and studies have shown that when those rent controls are implemented, you know what happens? It actually helps those people that are better off, not worse off. The richer folks, not the poor folks, are helped more by those rent controls that this Democrat socialist wants to put in play in New York. Fast and free buses. My question to fast and free buses, how are you going to pay for the bus's maintenance? How are you going to pay for the gas? The other thing, artificially raising the minimum wage. That leads to job loss and higher prices. We've talked about all of this. City-owned grocery stores, that, of course, is a joke. So I told you all this on Friday. Like, can you imagine? In such a blue city as Washington, D.C., all of these employees that work at these city-owned grocery stores, they're going to have to be union. The minimum wage is going to have to be really high. What are you paying these folks? And every single employee will, of course, have to be some sort of protected class, victim status seeking type of person. Because that's just the way that it goes. And by the way, if you want merchandise in your city-owned store, the bad guys can come in and steal because the cops cannot be called, can't involve the police because, well, equity. So I think this is going to be a complete failure. So then the question is, should we let New York burn?
When we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is we've seen that they've worked in Kansas. We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And finally, it costs less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices, any guarantee of collective bargaining agreements, or that they accept SNAP or WIC.
All right, so I love this because it should be noted that in Chicago, they had that study, right? He's talking about this big study that the city of Chicago did. How they were going to have city-owned grocery stores. And so Chicago comes up with some sort of a big study on this. Well, they abandoned the idea. Now, why did they abandon the idea after the study? If the study was so positive for city-owned grocery stores, why did they abandon the study? And why did they abandon the idea? Why didn't Chicago actually do it? Because even they admitted they knew nothing about grocery stores. They never actually even released that study. No. Oh, and by the way, the other thing that I love about because this guy, Zoran Mamdani, he's spewing complete and utter BS. He talked about those grocery stores, those city-owned grocery stores in Kansas. Wait till you hear what he forgot to mention. It is 6:46, Nashville's Morning News. Time to check in with traffic on WTN. Thank you, Christy. As far as your weather today, looks like it's going to be hot. Of course, a high of about 90 at about another 7 or 8 degrees. And that's going to be the feels-like temperature. Some possible scattered thunderstorms as well. So do you know, we've got this guy, Mamdani. He's talking about how he believes that in the city of New York, they can have city-owned grocery stores because don't you know they did it in Kansas? And they're really successful in Kansas. Okay. Do you know the populations of the towns that they put up these city-owned grocery stores that old Mamdani is talking about, to justify what he wants to do? There are like 1,000 people in these towns. Some of these towns even have like negative 500. I don't even know how that works. So you can have like a handful of towns, really small towns in Kansas that are government owned or city owned, and think that is an adequate comparison to New York. It's just not. Oh, but there's more. There is more. He wants to go after white neighborhoods. That's actually on his website. Zoran Mamdani wants to go after white neighborhoods as a target. That made a lot of news over the weekend.
We went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
Oh, I know why he brought race. Joan, KJ, anybody know? It's because he's racist. I'm an idiot. I know that, right? He's also anti-Semitic. Let's see what he says, though.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture.
But did Eric Adams say that he was going to target white neighborhoods? I'm pretty sure that I would have heard of that. If Eric Adams said that he was going to target white neighborhoods, I think we would probably know.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes. And yet, by invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that we actually have an equal playing field. And right now, what we see with the property tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others, and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language on your website?
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
In other words,
she tried to help him so much there.
Yeah.
Oh, she did. She's
like, "Are you sure?"
You know what he reminds me of when he's speaking like that? He reminds me of Kamala Harris. It's a word salad, but he can do it well. Like he gets the words out and he makes an actual thought from beginning to end, where she couldn't do that.
But it's complete and utter BS.
But it's nonsense,
You're right, Joan. But it's just nonsense.
But did he grow up in a middle class family? That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the biggest answer you could possibly have if you're running for anything.
Wow.
Did you hear the controversy about AOC?
Yeah.
Do you understand that, Joan?
Yeah. You mean the guy that went to school with her?
The guy that went to school with her, and he pops out the yearbook, and it's like she's not the rough and tumble AOC. We'll talk about that at some point, maybe in the next hour. Because I actually find that really funny. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Straight ahead at 6:52, Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom.
Yeah, coming up here, there are new concerns raised over whether the Iranian nuclear program is obliterated. And firefighters ambushed in Idaho. The attack is now over. We'll bring you the latest. Those stories and more coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.